Sanding. It is an art form, and it's also one that I never quite mastered. Sanding is one of those things that is a requirement if you're going to build balsa wood airplanes, and in my estimation it's a very critical one. It's just that I was never very good at it, nor did I have a whole lot of patience with it. So all I've got here is just a couple of the tools that I currently have to do sanding, and one of them is this 12-inch T-handle type of thing where I would just cut a strip of sandpaper and use a contact. Initially I was using contact adhesive, but then I just started using like a double-sided piece of tape to put that on. I use this thing for years and I don't care for it, and I'll explain why in a second. This thing here is just a little foam sanding block that you can get at any home supply store like Lowe's, Home Depot, anything like that. I don't know what grit it is. It's normally found in the paint aisle. This is what I use for a lot of things now because it's a fine enough grit. It's got a good enough grit that it'll take balsa down pretty well, but it's not overly aggressive. This one here, you know, whenever I would be doing wings, I'd be trying to sand, and first thing is, and I know very little about sanding. Like I said, I'm no expert at all. But those of you that are completely new to it, you always want to sand with the grain. You don't want to sand across the grain because it just is gross. It makes a mess. But this particular sanding thing, when I would do this, I would inevitably run off here and smack cap strips off. So I quit using that, and now, and for the last few planes, I've used these type of things, and all I'm going to do here is just very lightly just kind of go here. Now, sanding is really a critical part of scale modeling. If you're going to be covering an airplane with silk and then painting it, sanding, you better become a master sander and filler and all that because it will show. But when you're doing iron-on covering, it's not so critical because that'll cover up a lot of things. So when I'm sanding, I'm just kind of lightly doing this. And one of the key things with wings and cap strips is to make sure that you don't have some protrusion here, so that an uneven surface, so that the monocoat or the covering material will be able to see that, because it will see gross imperfections. So I just kind of go over my cap strip joints and make sure they're flush. And then I'll just kind of go over the whole thing just very lightly and very carefully. Now the other thing is, they used to sell, Top Flight used to sell little tack cloths. So after you're done sanding, you got to get that balsa dust off your wing somehow. And the best way I found to do it is, and I don't have a paper towel out here, but I just get a big paper towel, fold it into a square, and either shoot it with some water or some isopropyl alcohol, just a squirt bottle, and just wipe it down. Wipe your wing down, and you'll see that it's picking up all the balsa dust. That's really all you need to do for that. Now, just real quickly in closing here, I just want to show you my center section glassing here. It turned out really well. You can see that sheen. I got it so it was very thin here. There's minimal sanding to do, but I will be sanding it just a little bit. But otherwise, once I do a little bit more sanding on this wing, this thing is ready to be covered. Here, this is an OS FS-90 engine. This engine dates back to, I believe, about 1983. So when I saw this listed, I was like, wow, you know, it's been a while since I've had one of these, and over the course of the years I've had probably 7 or 8 of these. Don't have one now. Now I do. But it's like, for under $100, how can I resist buying this? Now this engine is completely locked up, and it's a very high time engine too, because I did when I got this the other day, I did take this header off, and it doesn't come with the exhaust, it just has this header on there. So this one is set up for having the muffler on there, but earlier versions or other versions have just a header pipe on it. So I'm looking to see if I can find one of those. But I mean, I can see there's at least a 30-second or, you know, of carbon buildup on the exhaust valve. So this engine is going to require some doctoring. I mean, even a high-speed needle doesn't turn. So the only thing that moves on this engine is what I had loosened up already, and the choke valve. Here's the completely disassembled and for the most part 90% cleaned OS FS-90 engine that was purchased. I've got it all cleaned up. Everything is sitting in ballast right now. This engine gave me fits. There's still some gasket stuff here that I haven't fully taken care of. This engine gave me fits to disassemble. It fought me with every fastener at every corner. It just really did not want to be disassembled. But I prevailed. This engine will be rebuilt and running. Now, the final piece of the puzzle that was really nice was there's an eBay vendor named Noel Jensen, and he'll often you'll find rebuild kits on his eBay store. And I just so happened to be, it was just really providence that I had this engine at the time that I was looking for bearings for this, because I just did the FS-60 and I got a new set of bearings. And that whole new set of bearing, just the rear bearings for the timing cover were $35. Well, Noel Jensen sells, I saw this kit that has 4 of the 5 bearings and all of the gaskets you would ever need, even a head shim, pushrod cover, pushrod gaskets, all of the gaskets you would ever need, and this was like $27. So of course I jumped all over that. Now you're saying there's only 4 of the 5 bearings. Well, I was looking at the bearing, this one small bearing, which is a stainless steel one that goes here in the rear cover, and it's actually good. As bad as everything else was in this engine, this bearing is perfect. And this is a stainless steel one, and even in Noel's words, the reason he doesn't include it in this kit is because they seldom ever need replacing. So for a lot less than just those 3 bearings, I got an entire rebuild kit for this engine, and this engine will be rebuilt here very soon and ready for runs.